Welcome back to my channel today. We are going to continue with some back to school items that we're learning to sew. So go pick out your fabrics and come back and join us as we make this pen holder for a composition notebook today. For today, for your supplies, you are going to need two 2.5 by 7 inch cut rectangles. You are also going to need the same measurement for some lining or interfacing or some type of stabilizer of your choice. You also are going to cut 2.5 by 9 inch rectangles as well. You will also need an interfacing or something that you want, again, to stabilize it. And then you're going to want a piece of elastic. Now, I am choosing to use 1/2 inch because of the particular composition notebook that I've chosen to use. And also, I am choosing to go 9 inch, which is about a 1/2 inch shorter than the book. That way you have some flexibility with stretching it over the entire book when you're ready to use it. So go ahead and cut out the pieces that you need and come back and we will go through the steps to make it. Okay, so the first thing we want to do is to take one of our 9 inch pieces of fabric and we want to fuse, because mine is fusible, I want to go ahead and fuse this to the back of just one of those so that it will give us a little bit of stability. Because remember, we're going to put pens or pencils in this pouch and we do not want it to be a flimsy situation. So this just gives us a little bit of stability when we sew it to kind of help those pens stay good and not flop around. We're going to do the same thing with just one. It doesn't matter which one since you're going to be putting these together anyway, but you're going to go ahead and fuse down one of your 7 inch pieces with a piece of your choice of stabilizer as well. So once you have both of these secured with a piece of stabilizer or something that is going to make it a little sturdier, then you are ready to start the process of sewing. So we are going to start with our two 7 inch pieces because this is going to actually be the pocket, and we are going to put right sides together and line that up. Because this is going to be easy to sew just one stitch, we're not going to worry about pinning this or clipping it. We're just going to line it up 1/4 inch and we're going to lower the needle and we're just going to sew straight across. Again, make sure you back stitch at the beginning, come all the way across, and you want to also back stitch at the end. And this is just going to give us the finished top edge of our pocket. And so you can just kind of press the seam open a little bit with your fingers because we are going to make sure that it still lays correctly at the top, but it just helps to kind of do that to open up the seam so that we get a pretty edge here. So now that we have this, we have what is called a finished pocket. You can also press this down if you want to just make sure you have it pretty good. And then the next thing you want to do is decide which part you want to be the front of your pocket and which side of your fabric you want to be the lining. So I'm going to make this the lining side of my pocket, and I'm going to make this the part of my pocket that you can actually see. Now the next thing we want to do is make a decision on what the front versus the back of the actual pen pouch will be. And so I want this to be the front of mine. And so what I am going to do this time is I'm going to take what's going to be the front and I'm going to go ahead and position the pocket exactly the way that it would look if I were going to go ahead and be using this. And so I want the pocket right side up. I also want the front of this to also be the right side up. The next thing we're going to do is we're going to sandwich our piece of elastic on top of this, and then we're also going to sandwich the back side on top with right sides together. Okay, so again, now I have the pocket the way I want it. I have my elastic. So just, you can eyeball the center or you can fold it to find your center, but put your elastic in the center point and just add a little clip to kind of hold this in place. And then you're going to also come to the bottom and you also want to get it kind of centered at the bottom, and you're also going to clip that in place. And this time I'm going to go ahead with right sides together. I'm going to sandwich these with the piece that's going to be the back of my pen holder, and we're going to clip that. And now that I have it on the bottom, I'm going to come back up here, get my fingers on it and hold it in place, and go ahead and connect that clip to the top clip. So now everything is sandwiched in between. So we are going to sew all the way around, and when we get to this side, we want to leave an opening about 1.5 inches so that we can flip this right side out. And you want to make sure you backstitch where you start and stop at that opening to give it some security, and then we're going to flip this right side out. So I'm just going to start, and again, I'm going to use a 1/4 inch seam for this. I'm going to lower my needle. I'm just going to line up. This is a 1/4 inch seam from my needle with seam tape that I have here. We're going to start by backstitching, and we're just going to follow a 1/4 inch all the way around. So when you get about to that distance, you can go ahead and turn it and just continue around. Again, when you get to these areas where it's kind of thick, you may just want to make sure, if you only have a couple of clips, that you just keep it aligned and close together so that you catch all of the seams for all of the pieces. Now we're nearing the top, so again, we want to make sure we are on a 1/4 inch. We're going to continue around. Again, keep it on that 1/4 inch. So now we're on the last side, so I'm going to go about 2/3 of the way. I'm going to backstitch here, and then I'm going to just stay on this 1/4 inch line, and I'm just going to raise my needle, and I'm just going to pull this forward and leave some room. I'm going to lower my needle again, and now I'm going to backstitch and start again, staying on that 1/4 inch, and I'm going to go all the way to the end. When I get to where these two stitches meet, we're going to backstitch, and that's going to get all of the sides sewn together but that one little section. And so now I'm going to just clip my threads here. I'm also going to clip this one, and that will be also on the bobbin side that you have to clip as well. Just get rid of those extra little strings. And now we also want to clip the corners, because anytime you have corners, you want them to lay well. So just clip without cutting the stitch, just so that we can poke those out really well without any issues when we turn this right side out. So once you clip all 4 corners, we are going to just flip this, and what we want to make sure we're doing is keeping the front pocket to the outside, and we're just going to completely flip this around and turn it right side out now. And you can use something to help you get your corners out really well. I do have something that I use. If you are careful, if you use something that's a little bit sharp, just make sure you don't press it hard, but just kind of press those corners, and that's just going to help you kind of get out a pretty good rounded looking edge rather than something that's not completely pushed out. And just get those pushed out really well where those seams were and where you've clipped, and then you're going to go up here and do the same thing in your other 2 corners. Just kind of push those out gently and just kind of roll those out to the corners. Okay, and so now you're going to notice that we have one side completely finished. Now I'm going to flip the elastic to the back, because this is the back of mine, and I am going to take these pieces and fold in that 1/4 inch that we already used for the rest of the project. And I do recommend that once you get this folded in, that you go over to your iron and you really press this down in place so that it really holds that together really well, so that you get a perfect alignment. So our top stitch is going to stitch this closed for us. Now, because I would have to get up and move and go to the iron and come back, and we are almost done, I'm just going to go ahead and just get mine finger pressed in there pretty well. And I'm going to go ahead and just clip it in place where this is folded. And then we're going to just top stitch this, and our project will be finished. So again, one thing to be careful about is the elastic. So I try to move the elastic around because you do not want to top stitch your elastic. So when I start, I bring the elastic back to the front so that I can see it, and that way I can position it and move it as I sew. So for this one, I am going to, again, just top stitch. Now when you top stitch, you're only going to focus on about 1/8 of an inch. And so I just pull it where my elastic is out of the way, and I'm going to just go right on the edge and lower this needle. Again, make sure you back stitch. Just a couple of stitches. And just keep an eye on your elastic as you go. And then when I get to the corner, about to the edge, I'm going to turn it. I'm just going to continue around with a top stitch, keeping an eye on this piece of elastic. I'm going to go one more stitch forward here. I'm just going to continue sewing all the way around. Now when you get to the area where your pocket joins, you may have to give it a little help because it's going to be a little thick there, so just help it along if you need to. Again, come all the way around, just staying on the edge. When you get close to the other edge, you want to just turn it, keeping your eye on this piece of elastic. You're going to continue this little top stitch around the bottom. We're going to come back around to the top and continue. Let's go one more little stitch on this one as well. Okay. So as you come up on your clips or your pins, you'll just want to keep your finger there as you remove those. And this is going to seal the side of this completely closed for us. We're just going to continue on that around. And we're going to come straight on up to the top part. So now we've made it back to the very top where we started our stitch. And I like to turn mine this direction and go back over about where I started and come forward a couple of stitches and then back stitch. And then again, we're just going to clip all of these threads as close as we can so that we don't have any hanging pieces. Embroidery scissors are great for trim work. And then all you have to do is flip this to the back, and now you have the perfect place to stick a pen or a pencil. And this one is made long enough so that if you have an actual pencil you want to go in there and not just an ink pen, you can actually add even a couple of pencils that are taller than a normal pen. And so now that is a very simple back to school project that you can do to just add a little pouch for your pens or your pencils on the front of your composition notebook. I hope that you enjoyed my tutorial. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and feel free to comment if you have any questions, and I'll be happy to respond. Thank you.